Hi, Jim here, just dropping in before this week's episode to tell you about my latest movie, The Apocalypse Box. It's a horror film and I'd love for you to check it out. If you go to apocalypsebox.co.uk, you can find all the links on where you can watch the movie. Right, let's get on with this week's episode. So, when you think of controversial filmmakers in the independent filmmaking space, one name comes to the top, and that's Uwe Boll, German film director. He's made a lot of films. He was famous originally for making video game adaptations, and then he went on to make some very controversial movies. I sat down with him and had a really interesting chat. We talked about some of the movies he's made. We talked about his recent film he's made with Armie Hammer called The Dark Knight, and we talked about controversy and how that affects him as a filmmaker. Enjoy. So you've been making independent films for a long time. Has it got easier or harder? How's it feel now compared to how it was when you started?
The one thing what got in a way, one thing we got easier, one thing got later, so worse. I think easier in the old days was to get a movie theater playing your film. There were more independent movie theaters. There was also more audience for independent films who just went on movies based on a review or based on a poster, or a trailer they watched. I think today it's so much harder to get in the movie theaters, and so, but because you fight constant against this $100 million campaigns, and the audience is not experimental anymore. They don't want to see the mediocre film or the middle film or it's more like, oh, now it's Captain America and now it's Barbie and now it's this. So they go only for that big budget films because they're trained. This is what you get the most film for, in a way. Absurd it is, but it is like this. And I think what, of course, today's time is easier is you can post your film everywhere, right? It's like you don't need a movie theater. You can post it in the internet. You can post it on Google, on Amazon. You can load it up yourself on Amazon Prime, like stuff like this. So distribution is easier, but also revenues are very hard to get. And my main revenue driver was DVD, was video rental, and video sell-through. And that was the reason 2016, when I did Rampage 3, I said, you know what, I'm not doing it anymore. I stopped making movies because 2016 was already the death of Blockbuster and DVD and rental and all that stuff. But there was no streaming future visible. And when I felt I come back with the first Shift film 2 years ago, I felt like now streaming turns into a chance again, like where you could maybe make some money back with streaming, and you could have your film worldwide, basically on a few entities, and you don't have to sell Argentina and Brazil and all the individual countries. You basically can do global distribution with one or two provider, and you have a chance. I mean, it's like, it's not easy, but it's better as 2016.
Definitely. And it's tough because, like you said about those big blockbusters, also it costs a lot of money to go to the cinema these days. I don't know what it's like in Germany, but here you're talking family of four. It's about 50, 60 pounds to go to the cinema to see one film. And then as a micro budget independent filmmaker, you're also competing with so much stuff. There's so many films out there. Everybody's making a film. So it's a tough one, but I can see how back then trying that ambition of getting into a cinema, obviously that's what everyone wants.
We did first Shift. We did a little theatrical in Germany because with Kinostar, I work a long time together, right? And they got some sneak previews, and they got a few theaters playing it. But the people are not going in a film where there's no advertising behind it, right? It's like you had like 10 Uwe Boll fans here, 20 Uwe Boll fans there, but that was it. There was nobody went there from the normal audience. And that was the reason that we never continued this anywhere. In the US also, Quiver brought the film out in 10 movie theaters for like 2 days. That's just to gain some reviews. And, and then, of course, in streaming, by luck now, it goes way better in Paramount Plus and so on in streaming in the US. But now, I mean, the real threat for the movie industry or for filmmakers is that maybe in 5 years, AI, you say, make me a science fiction film with a shark attacking everybody, and you push a button and the movie comes out. That would be like the horror for the whole industry, including the streamers, because the streamers also, like, it's not in their interest that there are no more humans involved in making movies, because they need humans paying the subscription fees and, and also going over the red carpet and doing all that stuff. So, and I think it's in our interest to maybe use AI for some CGI effects to make that cheaper, and maybe using voices that you don't have to bring the actors for dubbing, but to actually make full-on photorealistic with fake actors films without any human involved would be the end.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I was going to ask you about AI, so that's interesting. So with the advent of streaming, does that change the way you make films for you?
Yes. I mean, it's this kind of the first shift. For example, I felt like when I come back with a film and I felt, let's do a cop New York film. I love New York. I love cop movies. Let's do this, but let's do it in a way with some humor in, also make it a little more less Seed, Darfur, Rampage, not so extreme, because I felt that's something maybe the streamers are going for. And in a way that paid off, not financial so far, but the film is since 13 weeks in the number 10 at Paramount Plus in the US and Canada, what is of course a massive success. And I mean, even if they paid only a small amount of money for it, now I'm on their radar, right? So now we're negotiating if I can make First Shift 2 and 3, and they would pay the bill, basically. Not a bill like Taylor Sheridan, like I'm not getting 20 million bucks, but if they give me $1 million, I can already do something, so, and that would be, in a way, I would say that idea then was good to make a film like this.
Yeah.
And then my follow-up run and The Dark Knight now with Armie Hammer is there are more radical films. They are more like this kind of edgy Uwe Boll, political-driven action, like violent things, and Dark Knight way more as run. But I made these films because I felt it's kind of important to make that films, So, and I will see how this plays out in the market, and but I mean, I see a tendency in Germany, at least with the streamers, like when they commission German films, that they're very similar to what the TV stations ordering. And I think in England we see the same, right? I see a lot of the Harben, what is that? The British
Harlan Cobden.
Yeah, so I that stuff. It's entertaining, but this stuff you could also see at BBC, right? So it's not like they going in the local productions very edgy. Or I hoped that specifically Netflix goes a little more genre, a little harder, but they don't. It looks now a lot of the streamers go more like TV. And and so in the very end, for genre filmmakers or horror filmmakers and people that love violent films, there is still no home in the streaming world, so that's the thing, I mean, that's the way it is. But what should I say? I wanted to go back to movies. I love movies, and I will try to keep making movies. And now I will see how these films sell. Yeah.
And when you do those ones, I know people call them like political movies, or they're a bit more, violent, stuff like that. Is that a harder sell when you're trying to raise money or does that make it easier? How does that work?
No, I think action sells the best worldwide. So if I did run what is about the migration issue, where without an escalation in the end and like an attack on the asylum camp and whatever, like a total shootout, I don't think I would ever sell the film. Because then it would be a film, if you don't win the Berlin Film Festival or Cannes, you're dead. Like then nobody wants it. I mean, in Berlin now, we're seeing at the festival, a lot of buyers say this, that most of the actually films from the film festival run in the festival are staying unsold because they're not commercial enough. The people think that's just art house crap, So, but in the market, when you have a film with cast, and you have a film where some action happens, you will sell the film. I mean, Run and Dark Knight will sell. The question is only for how much, so that's the problem. It's also the problem that a lot of local distributors, I see that in UK drastically, they shrink down so badly, they just don't have the money anymore to give you a lot of advance money. They say we happily do it, we happily distribute it for you, and we take 20%, you get 80%, but we cannot pay you money up front. So, and this, you can, or let's say if there's no other choice, you have to do it as a filmmaker, and you just hope that they push the movie and make some money, and you get some money. So, of course, but you need also some territories that need to advance you money, or you cannot make a film. So where they have to commit, and I'm a little lucky that most of my money always came from America, because my films always worked there the best. In home video at least, they made really big money, like films like House of the Dead and Alone in the Dark, and and I think a lot of distributors, they know I'm kind of a brand, like that you have this kind of like, people hate you, but there's nobody who don't know you, so that's the thing. And that is also, at least you get this kind of attention when you do something. What is not so bad, especially if you get just uploaded on Amazon Prime, then people maybe think, Uwe Boll, I don't know, but they click it on.
Yeah.
It's all about the clickbait now,
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. And with that, so if you're doing those movies and they're going, oh, it's an Uwe Boll movie, it's going to be ultra violent, or it's going to be political, it's going to be this, that, and the other. When you get controversy around something you've made, does that ever get to you on a personal level? Or are you just looking at it like, well, publicity is publicity?
I feel film needs radical voices, and I was always more a radical, in-your-face, confrontational voice, and I think it's very important. You cannot have only, let's say, Tom Tykwer, Wim Wenders kind of filmmakers who who tell stories. They're more like going around 100 little trees and then they tell your story or whatever, right? So I'm always a big fan of this. You're not you're not bored if you watch an Uwe Boll film. You maybe get upset about it. You maybe get upset about the way things getting shown, but I think that needs a place. It needs this kind of. It's part of the film history too. And I recently watched The Wanderers, The Warriors again from Walter Hill, just by accident, right? So, and when you see the movies of the 80s and so on, it was this kind of more direct movies, the similar style what I do. You just follow a story. That is what happening, and you follow the story. And it's not about like how many interesting layers I can put to it to blur what is happening, and to show I'm a filmmaker and you follow my style telling a film. I never had that. I'm just telling this story the way that's the way to tell that story. So yeah.
Right. So then, you mentioned Armie Hammer. You're doing The Dark Knight. With obviously he's come with some controversy he's had in his personal life. does that affect, like, is that something that helps the movie, or is it even a consideration for you, or are you just focused on, oh, he's a good actor, I want him in the film?
No, it was like this. I watched him in the talk show Club Random with Bill Mayer, and I didn't had Armie Hammer in my head for the Dark Knight. And because for 4 years he was nowhere to be seen, basically, right? So, and when he was talking at the Club Random openly about the cancellation and where he stands now, I felt like, yeah, he needs to come back because he said, I made mistakes. I treated women badly, but I never raped anybody. And there was no lawsuit. There was no like state attorney trial against him or anything, right? So it was just an internet cancellation. And then Hollywood followed up on this, like, oh yeah, I cannot do that. He's whatever, because he Twittered to a girl or Instagram, I want to eat you like a cannibal, right? So yeah, okay, but he was dating her, and I don't think he actually wanted to eat her. I think you have to find that a little absurd. So it was a sexual kind of text he did. What I think it's more believable as to actually think he wanted to eat her, right? So, and that's the thing. But that thing with the cannibalism was blown off to the whole world, and they lost their shit on it. And then he was like out of the business. But he's like not Roman Polanski or Woody Allen, who are like 85, right? That he's under 40. He's a great actor. He was a big star. He looks good. And I watched him there and felt he should be the guy in my film, right? So I contacted him. He has no agent, nothing. I contacted him basically via Instagram. And he answered, and and we made a deal. And he said, like, you're aware, nobody wants to buy the film because I will be in the film. And then I asked an agency in the US, and they said nobody will buy the film because Armie Hammer is in the film. So, and then I felt like, nah, fuck it. I mean, yeah, because you what do you want to do? Like, overpaying an old Mel Gibson playing the Dark Knight. Like, that's the thing. It's like, also for me as a filmmaker, you have to see, as a producer, I don't have multi-million to spend. I'm not buying Timothée Chalamet to be my my Dark Knight. It's just like, so. And I felt, look, here is an A-list star who basically got canceled on the peak of his career, and if he comes back and I can get him now way cheaper as he was before, that's a good strategy. So, and now I don't know. To be honest, like we had a mini teaser just for buyers in Berlin. They loved it. They loved that the film is very, very violent. It's like Equalizer in more violent. And they liked it. And they liked that Armie Hammer really goes for it in the film. Like, he doesn't care, about any consequences of image, reputation, or whatever. It doesn't matter. So he went into it. That's what a director wants. So I hope that that the market also, and the distributors in the US, and especially the audience, will forgive him. And will say, look, it was 4 years is a long time as a penalty for cheating on your wife. I mean, because that is what it ultimately was. It broke the marriage apart and everything, So, but it's nothing where you could say that's the reason to never work with a person like this again.
It's a weird one, isn't it? Because it's almost become, and I've done this myself with a film, is you cast somebody who used to be a big name, and obviously they're in a part of their career where maybe they're not getting as much big projects as they used to. You cast them because they come with fans who love them in the thing they used to be in. They'll come and watch your movie. Whereas now, I guess what you're doing with this is you've got somebody who's in the public eye, been cancelled, still a really good actor, and open to working on lower budget stuff. And I'll watch it. I'll watch the film, and I know a lot of people who will, if only to see what it's like, and do you know what I mean, how he's come back and all this kind of stuff. So I imagine it will do well. I wonder if the people who buy the films, the promise of making loads of money out of it or people complaining about it, what's going to be stronger? I imagine the money will be the thing that gets them to distribute the film, definitely. But yeah, that is an interesting one. I'll leave the controversy alone now for you for a while, because that's not the main goal of this, but it is interesting. So give me so for somebody who's making their first feature film, what would be your advice on working with actors?
I mean, in general, let's say you're properly, or you have some money, some financing, that you're not a total zero budget film, then what I enjoy as a director is to give the actor the opportunity to bring his ideas to the table. Like, of course, not on a set, but before you shoot, right? So that you're really intense, and you can do it. I did it with Armie on Zoom mostly. We were talking on Zoom, and he said, I would never say this like this. I would, and I said, yeah, so you're the American, like I'm the German, so I cannot write American dialogue in a way. And so we changed dialogue based on his advice. I did that a lot with my films. And then I go through like the full motivation, like I give actors mostly like the homework to tell me who they are, like who are you? Like, that like in First Shift, Gino Pizzi, the cop, the male cop who gets the female cop on his side, that he lost his marriage because they lost their child. That was an idea he came up with. Right, so that we were thinking about why he doesn't want to work with a partner, why you want to work alone, right? And I mean, you can be just like you're like a disgruntled asshole. You don't want every, or you have a deeper thing. And then it's the same when you give this deeper info to the crowd, because you also don't want that the crowd thinks half of the movie, why is that guy so an asshole, right? So you want that the crowd knows maybe more as the female actress, stuff like this. And I think that I like to, on Run we did the same with Amanda Plummer, and so to basically adjust the written roles to the actual actor you get. That helps too. When you have, like, when I wrote in Run, there's a little older woman who helps a refugee. She hides her in her hotel room. And I had no clue who I get to play the part, but I saw her more as, let's say, 45, more like, whatever, fresh divorced, is in a coast town in Italy, and is like, has a helper syndrome. The refugee comes, she's like, okay, come in my hotel. And then you get Amanda Plummer, who's like 65, but and she's like so out of it, like, so you need to adjust to this. And you have to say, all of what is written here, who is this woman, Amanda, it doesn't matter. Like, you are the woman now, so you you adjust to this and how you would do it. That it's actually working very well in the film, because all this rescue mission from her, what she tries with the woman, she comes in an asylum camp, she tries to get out of the asylum camp, and so on, is chaos pure. It's this kind of like that she's almost like kind of helpless, but she wants to do it, right? So, and then she puts all her energy together to get her out of the asylum camp. And I think that works super good. And I think that so with other words, for young filmmakers or filmmakers who start or make films, I think don't be too dogmatic, be flexible and see where's the strengths of the crew and the cast, and try to use the strengths of them.
Yeah, agree completely. Yeah, and having that, it does take a while to learn that, is that you can't have a fixed view of how something has to be, because you just end up squishing a triangle into a square hole. You're much better off letting people come up with stuff. So that's good advice. Is there something what do you wish you'd known when you started your career all those years ago?
Yeah, that's what I just said. For
Yeah.
example, and also, like, I mean, in the beginning, when I made the first films, you're happy to get any actor. You're happy to get actors who say, "I do it for free for 2 days," or stuff like this. So it's not that you have the big choices. You have to make the best out of what you can, and um, and of course, I think it's never bad to uh, like prep long, to not jump into production too fast. What I had to do a lot of when I had all that big money coming in and did the video game based movies, it was always against the clock in a way, and that made me do scripts like Alone in the Dark, where you could spend 3 more months and you would have a way better film and a way better script. But it was impossible. And stuff like this, I think if you have the time, and I think if you don't have money, you should have the time. You shouldn't rush in production. And I think that it's the best thing to really bring various thoughts up and various possibilities and change also ideas or storylines, and then go with the best thing, out of a lot of choices. And I think that is really a luxus in a way. As less money you have, as more time you should have to not hurry into things. And I think also we do that with Dark Knight right now. Totally different story as Run. Like in Run plays in one day, so it's like, so you have basically how you cut it is kind of stringent. In the morning, the refugee boat comes. In the night, they attack the camp. Right. So it's this kind of strange thing. But Dark Knight is like a puzzle. It's like you never know, is this scene before the other scene or after? So you go back and forth in time. And I told the editor, it's Easton Manicus again, who did like Sin City and From Dusk Till Dawn and films like this. Like this time, we spend a little more time maybe in editing to try various things out. Like first, cut it in a way that it's going from A to Z. Like this kind of like, that's how it goes if we don't mix it up in the timeline. The plan is, of course, to not keep it like this. But if we have the original timeline, then we can maybe get a better feeling for it, to surprise the audience. To give things early away where you feel like, what the fuck, is happening? And then you go back in time and you see how this unfolds. And that at least was the way I wrote it. And I think that will make the movie way more interesting to watch as to go from A to Z, So, and I feel like that because the expensive part is the shooting of a film. If you're there concentrated and you shoot it straightforward and as fast you can, but in the prep and in the post-production, you could let it slide a little. You could give it in between also 3-4 weeks where you maybe don't do anything with it, and then you think about it again and you continue the post-production.
Yeah, more good advice there. I'll just finish off with some what I call fun questions. So if you could remake or reboot any film or franchise, what would you go for?
I'm not so the big fan of redoing movies, especially if you have great movies. I love French Connection, but to redo French Connection and name it French Connection, I think would be a crime. So, but what I would like is to do something like what Bad Boys was or what Die Hard was, this kind of franchises, but to go back more to the actual solid 10 to 20 million dollar level and doing only real action, not going like John Wick off the charts now. All this kind of original crime buddy action films like Lethal Weapon, they all went way too far. I think in the budgets with the CGI, the action is bullshit. Nobody would be alive anymore. Fast and the Furious, another example. Horrible, horrible since years and years now. Where I just feel that's they ruined this. They because these movies were successful because of the chemistry between the actors, and they all had stories or stunts or action sequences you could actually do. You could survive, and and that the kick is gone. Now where nothing happens to them and it's all total bullshit because it's all green screen and animated and they don't do the car chases anymore for real and stuff like this. Since then, I think there's something missing in the industry. First Shift is a little like this, but of course doesn't have enough budget to be like this. I think First Shift, the chemistry is there, but we would need like $10 million more per episode to really deliver also this kind of action level in real, and that we will not have. So we focus on that investigation and more the normal crime, but not the big shootouts on Fifth Avenue or something.
Yeah. Nice. And then the other one I was going to ask you was, what was your favorite film of the last sort of 12 months last year?
It's not easy because a lot of the films I didn't like a lot. You say the last 20 years, I can name a few, but I'm watching more and more TV series, where I enjoyed various things. Baby Reindeer was great, for example, right? So, or Beef was great as a TV series, where they're flipping out on each other. And movies is not so easy. I mean, of course, I watch a lot of films, but take The Fall Guy. I recently watched this, right? I think it had great potential to be a great satire on filmmaking, but then it turns into the same CGI bullshit action film like The Last Bad Boys. And you feel like that's the opposite to where Fall Guy should went to. Fall Guy should stay away from any CGI. They should do all, because it's stunt work, to do it all in real, and then it would be also $40 million cheaper to make the film. And I think they should focus more on telling the story about the bullshit Hollywood system. So then I would love Fall Guy, right? So, and that's the thing. It's like, and a lot of things I started watching and I felt then like halfway through, like, for example, I watched right now, I'm not done with John Woo, The Killer, the new one. I think it's horrible. Right, I think John Woo lost any touch to who he is. I mean, Face Off was a masterpiece, right? With Travolta maybe in his best part outside of Pulp Fiction, and you watch this film and you think, what the fuck? How can you sell out so much? I mean, it's just like, and that's a real problem for me to now actually also all that Oscar nominated films. Most of them I hate. When I cannot really say that I'm a fan of Emilia Paris or whatever, The Brutalist or this kind of stuff. It's like I think it's ridiculous what movies now getting picked to win all the prizes. I mean, it's Where's Dances with Wolves, or There Will Be Blood, or this kind of films don't exist anymore. The Godfather, I mean, so many, and it went so sideways the last 10 years that it's just like, God, I cannot sit through this. Yeah.
No, I know what you mean sometimes. I know what you mean. So my last question is, have you got a motto? Have you got like a mantra you apply to your life or filmmaking?
No, I think don't take anything too serious. Like I think, and especially I got so many bad reviews in my life and stuff like this. It's like, it's like you need to take it with humor, and you always have to say you're in the entertainment industry. So, don't take it too close to to your heart. And when you see the amount of suicides in the film industry in the last 3, 4, 5 years, it's horrific. When people like take it so serious when they have a career dent or something that they actually kill themselves, then you have to really step back, and you really have to say, look, since I'm alive, we didn't have a war. We did, we live in a very nice, good environment overall, and we should just shut up and don't feel sorry for ourselves.
I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you'd like to hear from more industry professionals, how they got into the business and how you can do the same, or you just want to listen to some cool stories from movie sets around the world, then please do subscribe to the Honest Filmmaker podcast.